In the early 17th century, the Netherlands was emerging as a significant maritime power, having gained independence from Spanish rule after the 80 Years' War. During this period, the Dutch established a formidable navy and a robust trading empire, making them influential players in European politics. The English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, divided England into royalists, who supported King Charles I, and parliamentarians, who sought to limit the king's power. The war's outcome had the potential to reshape the power dynamics in Europe, prompting external powers, like the Dutch, to align themselves with the side they deemed most likely to succeed. The Dutch decided to support the parliamentarians not out of ideological alignment, but rather strategic foresight. Recognizing the growing strength of Oliver Cromwell and the parliamentarian forces, the Dutch saw an opportunity to safeguard their economic interests and ensure their dominance in trade. The Royalists, who had previously been their allies, were now seen as a liability, particularly after the Royalist Navy began raiding Dutch shipping lanes. By 1651, the Royalist forces were in disarray. After significant losses, Charles I's army was pushed back to Cornwall, while his navy was confined to the Isles of Scilly, a small archipelago off the southwestern coast of England. The Isles had strategic importance due to their location and sheltered waters, making them a temporary refuge for the beleaguered Royalist fleet. The Dutch, eager to recuperate losses from Royalist raids, dispatched a fleet of 12 warships under Admiral Martin Tromp to the Isles, demanding reparations for the damages caused. On March 30th, 1651, after receiving no satisfactory response from the Royalists, Admiral Tromp declared war on the Isles of Scilly. This declaration raised questions regarding its legitimacy. Historical records show conflicting accounts about whether Tromp had prior authority to act or if he was waiting for approval from the Dutch government. This ambiguity adds a layer of complexity to the narrative, highlighting the often chaotic nature of wartime decision-making. The Dutch fleet initiated a blockade of the Isles, effectively cutting off Royalist ships from receiving supplies and reinforcements. In June 1651, as Cromwell's forces gained ground, Admiral Robert Black's fleet confronted the Royalist navy. The Royalists, unable to sustain their position due to dwindling resources and strategic isolation, surrendered, leading to the parliamentarian control of the Isles of Scilly. The Dutch fleet, having achieved their objective, returned home, but inadvertently neglected to formally declare peace with the Isles, setting the stage for a prolonged and peculiar conflict. Fast forward to 1985, Roy Duncan, a local historian in the Isles of Scilly, became intrigued by the historical claim of a war that seemingly had never ended. His inquiry to the Dutch embassy in London prompted an investigation, leading to the discovery of documents that suggested the Netherlands and the Isles were still technically at war. This revelation was not just a curiosity, it raised questions about the implications of a long-standing state of war, including issues of diplomacy and international law. In light of the possibility of renewed tensions, Duncan took the initiative to invite Dutch ambassador Rein Huydekoper to the Isles of Scilly to sign a peace treaty, effectively ending a conflict that had been dormant for centuries. On April 17, 1986, the treaty was signed, symbolizing a reconciliation between the two parties and formalizing the end of a war that had begun over 3 centuries earlier. The story of the Isles of Scilly and the Netherlands serves as a fascinating case study of historical memory, international relations, and the unforeseen consequences of past conflicts. It illustrates how history can shape contemporary diplomacy and emphasizes the importance of understanding the nuances of historical events. The peace treaty, while symbolic, highlighted the enduring nature of diplomatic relationships and the capacity for resolution, even after centuries of silence.